In conference, including you.
Okay, we're going on a live video, and we are
Hello, this is Francie, a hearing coordinator who just joined us.
Yes, hi. My name is Carrie Hand, and I'm also joining in the informal hearing for the bird owner.
Is the bird owner with you?
She will be joining in on her own number.
Okay.
I'm a witness.
Who just joined our line?
My name is Carrie Hand on the informal hearing. I'm a witness.
Right, I got that. I heard another beep. Who else just joined us?
I'm not sure. I believe you have another witness coming into the group, Jody, and she will be there any moment, and the bird owner, because it was scheduled for 10:15.
Right.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. Did we do introductions yet, or are we still getting everybody together?
We're still waiting for everybody to call in.
Okay, perfect. I'll just wait right along with you. I'm Carrie.
The incident is on.
Very good. We are still waiting for Mrs. Johnson to call in.
Okay, I'll wait alongside.
Hi, I'm here.
Is this Alyssa?
This is Jody. Alyssa's calling in now. She just called me.
Okay.
So I guess the Cdfa person will come on the line once Alyssa has called in and we're all here. Carrie?
Yeah, Jody, I'm on the line also. So yes, we'll just wait for the Cdfa reps to start the hearing.
Okay.
Alyssa Johnson, have you joined us yet?
Is this line still going for the informal hearing?
Yes, we are waiting
Okay.
for Alyssa to call in.
Okay, thank you.
I'm here.
Hi,
You're
Alyssa.
here? Okay, very good. I'm here. Okay. And we have the IMT on the line?
Yes, we are on.
Okay, all parties are present, so let's go ahead and begin.
Okay.
And I need
Good
to
morning.
disclose for legal. I need to disclose for legal purposes. I am also recording this call for my own records.
Okay.
And I'm also
Good morning. This hearing will-
I'm also recording as well. My name is Carrie.
Hi, Carrie.
So good morning. This hearing will now come to order. This is an informal hearing of the California Department of Food and Agriculture being held at the request of Alyssa Johnson. Today's date is June 3rd, 2019, and the time is 10:18 a.m. Let's start with an introduction from each participant, including observers, in this hearing, stating our names and roles associated with this hearing. As this proceeding is being electronically recorded, I ask that all parties please speak clearly, and if needed, please spell your names. My name is Dennis Wilson. I have been delegated authority to serve as hearing officer and was selected to conduct this informal hearing regarding the quarantine notice of required action number ON-052018 #14511, describing the premises at 27636, and I'm not sure how to pronounce this, Beningji Avenue, Land, California 92585, and the quarantine notice was issued June 1st, 2019 at 10:17 a.m. So with that, Ms. Francie, could you please identify yourself?
This is Beth Francia, hearing coordinator. I will not be participating in the hearing.
Okay. So, Dr. Fowler, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, this is Dr. Ken Fowler. I'm the co-incident commander here at the Virulent Newcastle in Ontario. And perhaps, Dr. Wilson, if we could get folks to mute their lines, we're getting a lot of background noise.
Yes, I was just going to suggest that as well. So please, if you're not speaking, please mute your line. Okay. So I believe you have an epidemiologist with you, Dr. Fowler?
Yes, good morning. My name is Dr. Jamie Barnaby. I am a veterinarian with the USDA and currently deployed to the incident as an IMT epidemiologist.
Okay, and then Alyssa Johnson, could you please introduce yourself?
My name is Alyssa Johnson. I'm a resident, 27636 Benini Avenue. I also have my mother, Victoria Johnson, the legal homeowner of the property present.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning. So with that, I know we have some other observers on the line. Could you please introduce yourself?
My name is Carrie Hand. I'm a witness.
Okay, and I believe there was somebody else as well?
Yes, my name is Jody Horner, and I'm also a witness.
Okay, thank you very much. And did we get the first name of Alyssa's mother? Victoria, okay.
What other first name did you need? Victoria Johnson. My mother is the legal homeowner of the
Very
residence.
good. Got it. Thank you. Okay, so Alyssa Johnson requested this hearing by electronic mail on June 2nd, 2019. The department is proceeding to address this matter pursuant to the informal hearing process set forth in sections 1310 through 1310.3 of Title 3, Division 2, Chapter 9, Article 1 of the California Code of Regulations. As the hearing officer, I will conduct the hearing in the following manner. First, a representative of the incident management team, which we may refer to as IMT, will provide the factual basis for the imposition of a state California quarantine. The specific required actions are not subject to appeal. No quarantine means a designation of host and or at-risk populations of animals wherever located for appropriate action as determined by the state veterinarian pursuant to the article I mentioned. After which, Alyssa Johnson will present the facts that she believes supports an erroneous imposition of the quarantine. During the course of the hearing, I will remind everyone to focus on the facts of the matter and nothing else. Keep in mind that consistent with Food and Ag Code 9562, the state veterinarian or their designee shall impose a quarantine if he or she believes upon any basis reasonably supportable by standard epidemiological practice or credible scientific research that a population of domestic animals has contracted or may carry an infection, pathogen, contagion, or condition that without intervention could transmit an illness that could kill or seriously damage other animals. Because the authority conferred by this section is designed to protect the health and safety of citizens of this state, the authority shall be interpreted broadly to give full effect to the purpose of protecting public health and safety. So both the incident management team and Alyssa Johnson may ask questions of each other after each side has presented its case, as long as they're courteous and respectful. I also may ask questions. I will intervene to terminate any questions or comments that I consider to be rude and offensive or outside the scope of the hearing. I will issue a decision within 24 hours after the hearing. The decision shall be memorialized in writing with a brief statement of the conclusion and the findings to support it. The decision will be provided to the appellant via email or other requested means of expedient communication and shall be final upon issuance. Alyssa Johnson, you may seek judicial review of my final order, if so inclined, by filing a petition for writ of administrative mandamus in the Superior Court. Before we get started, we will swear everyone in, As I call you, please raise your right hand and state your full name for the record. Please repeat "I do" after the following statement. Do you affirm that the testimony you give today will be truthful? So I will start with Dr. Fowler. Do you affirm that the testimony you give today will be truthful?
This is Dr. Kent Fowler. I do.
Okay. Dr. Barnaby, do you affirm that the testimony you give today will be truthful?
This is Dr. Barnaby, and yes, I do.
Okay. Mrs. Alyssa Johnson, do you affirm that the testimony you give today will be truthful?
My name is Alyssa Johnson, and I do.
Okay. And was it Victoria Johnson? Okay, good. So Victoria Johnson, do you affirm that the testimony you give today will be truthful?
My name is Victoria Johnson. I do.
Okay. So Carrie Ann and Jody, you identified yourselves as being witnesses. Are you eyewitnesses of the actual circumstances?
Yes, sir, I am.
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay, in that case, Carrie Ann, do you affirm that the testimony you give today will be truthful?
I do.
Okay, and I'm having a hard time reading my writing, but Jody Horn, is it?
Horner.
Horner. Okay, Horner. Do you affirm that the testimony you give today will be truthful?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. So let's get started with the opening statement from the representative of the Incident Management Team. Please go ahead and proceed.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. This is Dr. Kent Fowler. And what we will do, Mrs. Johnson, is I will go ahead and give you just a little background on the Virulent Newcastle, this particular incident, and then Dr. Barnaby will provide some more detailed information from an epidemiological standpoint. So Virulent Newcastle disease is a highly infectious disease of birds, not routinely seen in the United States. Last year, the middle of May 16th to be exact, 2018, the California Department of Food and Ag did detect Virulent Newcastle in a small flock of exhibition birds in Los Angeles County, and these were chickens. Virulent Newcastle was previously known as exotic Newcastle disease, so you may hear reference to that. Exotic Newcastle and Virulent Newcastle are the same disease. This was the first detection in the United States since the Southern California outbreak of 2002-2003. Virulent Newcastle is a foreign animal disease, meaning that we do not normally have it in the U.S., and because it is one of the most important poultry diseases in the world, and its detection in the United States requires that it is reported to the World Organization for Animal Health, commonly referred to as OIE. Because of this reported disease here in Southern California, to date 57 countries have placed some form of trade restrictions on the United States. Because of poultry health and trade concerns, both Cdfa and USDA immediately established a unified incident command at the Cdfa district office in Ontario to eradicate the disease, to protect our backyard poultry and certainly our commercial poultry industries as well. So last year, throughout the summer and into the fall, a large amount of surveillance census was conducted throughout Southern California looking for Virulent Newcastle. The strategy at that time is positive birds were euthanized as they were found. We went ahead and tested adjacent flocks, 2 infected flocks, and euthanized any positives. And at that time, any negative birds were kept under quarantine. However, what developed was a number of these previously tested negative flocks later became infected, probably due to large amounts of the Virulent Newcastle virus in the environment in that particular area. And it is not uncommon for infected birds to shed virus before they start showing outward signs. Because of this situation, and with the first strategy to eliminate exposed flocks before they became clinical and shed virus, thus adding to the problem. As the number of infected flocks in an area increased, we established a highly infected area where we would euthanize all poultry in the area, reasoning that they were all exposed or soon to be exposed. Euthanasia of infected and at-risk flocks has proven to be, over time, the most effective method of eradicating disease by removing the host. The host most susceptible are chickens, but that would include other poultry species as well, is to remove the host of this virulent Newcastle virus. Then, at the beginning of this year, on February 27th, Dr. Annette Jones, our state veterinarian, issued a regional quarantine for Los Angeles County and the western portion of Riverside and San Bernardino counties. So that concludes my opening background on virulent Newcastle, Dr. Wilson and Mrs. Johnson, and I'll go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Barnaby at this time.
This is Dr. Barnaby. So I would like to begin by saying that as veterinarians, we take an oath to protect animal health and welfare, as well as to relieve animal suffering. As such, we are deeply committed to ensuring the health of our pets, our livestock, and our poultry in this country. Unfortunately, there are situations where animals with disease must be humanely euthanized, which is the situation with the current outbreak of virulent Newcastle disease. Diseased birds and those at high risk of acquiring the disease need to be euthanized to prevent the continued spread of the virus. Everyone involved in this outbreak has the same goal of wanting to get rid of this disease as quickly as possible. To do so requires commitment not only from the state and federal government, but from the local community. We recognize that this is a difficult situation for everyone involved. This is not what we go to veterinary school for, but we understand the need to protect, again, the livestock and the poultry of this nation. We also recognize that this is especially difficult for our poultry owners, such as Ms. Johnson. Virulent Newcastle infection in California, we often use the analogy with skin cancer. When removing a skin tumor, a surgeon takes wide margins. This includes removing healthy tissue in addition to the diseased tissue in an effort to ensure that the cancer is completely removed. The margins of that tissue are then evaluated to verify that they contain only normal cells. We are applying a very similar process in eradicating virulent Newcastle disease, and that some healthy birds must be removed to make sure that we have eliminated the virus from the area. Any virus remaining will spread and lead to more disease. Again, this is the same rationale behind the USDA and Cdfa creating euthanasia zones around infected premises. Creation of such zones is a common method that is employed globally to eradicate disease in animal populations. And it is important to stress that all poultry within that infected area are required to be euthanized. This may also extend to premises who may not be in the direct area, but may be directly linked epidemiologically to an infected premises. Based on studies conducted by the USDA and Cdfa during the 2002-2003 outbreak, as well as this current outbreak, risk factors were identified for becoming an infected flock. These risk factors include proximity to an infected premises, housing birds in outdoor cages, birds having contact with wild birds, as well as other domestic birds, such as neighboring birds that are permitted to roam free. Having more than 20 birds on site, and having game fowl on premises have also been identified as risk factors. Birds housed outdoors are at a high risk. Loose birds are at an even greater risk for viral exposure and disease transmission. Many premises within these infected zones share these known risk factors and are epidemiologically linked, resulting in the continued maintenance and spread of virulent Newcastle disease virus in these areas. We are treating these infected areas as a single flock since the probability of virus exposure and transmission is high. Diagnostic testing often comes up as a question, and I'd like to clarify that the diagnostic tests that are currently available do not always allow for detection of infected birds. Early in the course of infection, normal-appearing birds do not always shed enough virus to be detected via available testing methods. So using testing to decide which animals to depopulate in areas where the virus is known to be spreading, such as in these infected areas, will result in persistence of the virus, but test negative birds.
Again, can I remind people, sorry, Dr. phones on mute. Oh, Dr. Barnaby speaks, please. We're getting interference again. Thank you.
Johnson premises is located within the Sun City Regional Infected Zone, and is specifically located within 1 kilometer of an infected backyard premises newly identified within the last week. It is clear to us after 12 months of battling virulent Newcastle disease in Southern California that our previous approach of relying on owners to report sick birds and then testing those birds adjacent to those premises has not been effective. In 2002-2003, when virulent Newcastle disease was present in these very same areas in Southern California, mandatory euthanasia of poultry in entire neighborhoods was required in order to successfully eradicate the disease. A similar approach is being implemented in the current outbreak. We have to remove the host birds in these infected areas in order to eliminate the virus from Southern California. I would like to stress again that we do not want to euthanize people's animals or pets, but feel that there is no other choice in order to control this devastating disease. Thank you. That concludes my comments.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Barnaby. So next to speak will be Alyssa Johnson. Please present the facts you believe support an erroneous imposition of the quarantine. And I understand you have some others with you, but I would like it if you were able to start and then kind of direct the communications from your other folks. Thank you.
Okay, Doctor, if we could ask you very quickly, you gave a list of items that put birds at risk, one of them being more than 20 birds. There was about 5 or 6 items. Could you repeat those quickly for me?
Yes, ma'am. So to be clear, this is a list. It is not necessarily comprehensive for risk factors, but they are some of the primary factors identified. And they include proximity to an infected premises, housing birds in outdoor cages, having contact with wild birds, having contact with other domestic birds, in the sense of neighboring poultry that may have access to the property, having more than 20 birds, and having game fowl on the premises.
So if I can interrupt for a second, because we have a number of people who are on the phone, when you speak, could you please re-identify yourself so we know who's speaking? Thank you. Please go ahead, Mrs. Johnson.
She wants you to talk. It's your turn to talk. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm conversing with my mother, the legal homeowner of the property. Introduce yourself. Okay, my name is Alyssa Johnson. I'm hearing your points of increased risk for the spread of the disease. I have a question for you, Doctor. Seeing as how this virus can lay dormant in soil for up to 12 months, is that true? Do you have your facts on that?
Dr. Wilson, just a point of order. Are we going the normal format on this hearing where all sides will present their case and then you will be offering questions back and forth, or would you like us to go ahead and answer the questions as we go along?
I think, Dr. Fowler, you're correct that we should first allow Alyssa Johnson to provide why she thinks that this quarantine is erroneous, and then we can proceed to answer questions.
Okay, well, here I am, Alyssa Johnson, presenting my case. I have yet to be informed of a positive test within a mile radius of my home. My property is completely closed. None of my adjacent neighbors have poultry. My birds, you would need to go through 3 access gates before even reaching them. They are in a completely enclosed, converted shed. There is no possible way for wild or domestic birds to cross paths, to poop, to urinate, any of the following. My birds are never free-ranging. They are completely confined to not even screened. It is completely closed. I have disinfectant dips for our shoes. We have designated muck boots to go into the quarantined area. I have a bin with a lid that is secure that stays confined in the quarantine area. I have far less than 20 birds. It is my son's pet. Whenever we go to the speed store, we spray down tires and spray our shoes. And then even those shoes that we take to the feed store are never even within 100 feet of our quarantined area. I'm not allowed to ask questions yet.
Yep, we're almost there. I think you've presented some good information. Do you have anything you'd like to add to that right now?
I just don't understand how we have yet to even have a confirmed positive case in our area, but yet I'm surprised at the straight-to-the-point kill notice left on my door. When I wasn't even told anything. I was never even informed of quarantine.
Okay, so with that, can the incident management team please respond, ask questions, etc.?
Hi, yes, this is Dr. Barnaby. Ms. Johnson, to answer your first question about the survivability of the virus, this is incredibly variable. Given that the virus could survive for a highly variable timeline in the environment, things that come into play could be the amount of sunlight, the humidity at any given time, the presence of organic material. When I say organic material, I mean soil, leaf matter, grass, fecal material, other secretions from animals, not simply poultry, could extend the life of this virus in the environment.
So my question would be, what are you exactly stopping then? We have full documentation of the millions of birds that you are dropping at our local dump sites where wildlife, they're all having access to it. You're not stopping anything.
So, ma'am, to answer your question, we are operating under a 120-day fallow period. So once no additional virus is being spread, i.e. there are no host animals available on site, that premises is not permitted to bring in new poultry for 120 days after an infection has been present.
But I'm speaking of our public dump sites, the places we go to that we take foliage and trash and large amounts of waste, where people the public have access to these places, walking in and out through, and there are millions of dead, possibly infected birds all over the place.
So I think that you raised several valid points. When it comes to our activities in the area, everything that is disposed from an infected premises or premises that may not have been infected but may have been where we have gone in to euthanize animals, none of that material is willy-nilly disposed of at the nearest available location. We have very specific contracts in place to handle that disposal to ensure that no additional virus is spread. Having said that, if folks in the community are disposing of dead birds in local landfills, etc., we do not have direct control over that. That is in violation of the regional quarantine and should not be happening.
Okay, any other questions?
My name is Victoria Johnson. I am the homeowner, and I have not yet had an opportunity to present mine. May I have a minute of your time?
Please do.
Okay, thank you so much. First of all, let me start by saying that this has been very upsetting to us. And these animals they're pets. We have a couple chickens, and they're pets. They have names. They are beautiful. They are healthy. And one of the things that I have read about is that if a bird is sick, it will show signs immediately. I've also read, and you just kind of emphasized it, in the 90 to 120-day quarantine. These birds are quarantined. They are in a enclosed shelter. They have no access. So basically everything that you gave me on the list, the proximity to other wildlife, contact, more than 20 birds, outside cages, we have met every single bit of that criteria in order to ensure the safety of these birds, as well as not helping to spread this terrible disease. They're not sick, and within a day of your kill date will be the 120-day quarantine period from the issue of February that you gave. So I'm asking you to not come and kill my grandson's couple of chickens that he's raised since they were born. We have done everything on our own without even being asked by you as far as the shelter, the cleanliness. We've done everything to not spread this disease. They are not sick. Please don't come and kill my grandson's pets for no reason. That's all I have to say. We've met every bit of criteria, and that kill date is within 48 hours of the 120-day quarantine being over from that February date.
So would the IMT address the issue in terms of the regional quarantine, the time frame with that, and any other remarks you might have?
Yes, sir. This is Dr. Barnaby. Ma'am, the 120-day time frame that you are referring to is in reference to a fallow period, not in reference to a quarantine. The regional quarantine that has been imposed by the state of California is in effect until further notice and will not be lifted until this disease has been shown to be eradicated from the local poultry population.
I appreciate your feedback on that, but taken into context, if a quarantine is basically for 90 to 120 days, correct? Is that correct or no?
No, ma'am, that is not correct. So the 120 days, the 90 to 120, I assume that you're referencing, is a window for a fallow period, which means that it's once the virus has been removed from a facility, so in an infected premises, once a flock is positive, those animals are euthanized, and all infected material is removed from that premises. It is then required to remain fallow. In other words, they may not bring in new poultry, new susceptible species within a 120 window fallow period. However, given the presence of this regional quarantine, if needed, right, and this virus is moving all the time. So just because someone has been under fallow does not mean that once susceptible species are on that property again, that they could not then be reinfected if the virus is circulating in the area, which is why this regional quarantine will remain in place until the state deems it appropriate to lift. And the fallow period is a separate concept within that, if that makes sense.
And it does make sense, and I appreciate your clarification. I just want to emphasize that these birds are quarantined. They're not susceptible to birds flying by, dropping infected droppings on the ground. There's a roof. They're not susceptible. I mean, we were told that there's not been any positive in this general area. We were told we weren't in a kill zone. I know I'm being redundant, but we have absolutely done everything to protect these few little chickens, and we will continue to do so, not bringing any more fowl in, not changing their environment, keeping them in the shed, keeping the bleaching going, the shoes. We will continue to operate under all of these requests and guidelines that you guys have offered, which is why our birds are healthy and beautiful.
Okay,
yes, ma'am. This is Dr. Barnaby again. I have a few comments on that, and I do sincerely commend you for your efforts in biosecurity. That is fantastic. The challenging part here is that while biosecurity certainly minimizes the risk of infection, it does not negate that risk entirely. And the infected premises located near is not actually within, so it's within a 1 kilometer radius of your home. In fact, this translates to approximately a half a mile away. It is incredibly close, and we know that the movement of people, animals, vehicles, whatnot in the area, we have seen this jump to...
So are you telling me that there is a infected area within a half mile of my house?
There is an infected premises within the 1 kilometer radius. Or you fall within the 1 kilometer radius from that infected premises, to be exact.
And when was that premises determined to be infected?
This was determined within the past week.
Is that a matter of public record?
Ma'am, on behalf of the state, there is a confidentiality component, so we do not release the specific address of infected premises.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments?
Carrie hand, I do. I was waiting for my turn.
Do I sit? Go ahead, Carrie.
Am I allowed to speak now?
Please proceed.
Okay. Hi, my name is Carrie, and I'm a witness to, first of all, Miss the Johnson residents there and their housing. And a couple questions I have, and I'm going to direct them to the person. Dr. Barnaby, nice to meet you. You mentioned a few things that you read off regarding skin cancer and some analogies. Are you reading off of a pre-canned or pre-scripted form?
Yes, ma'am. Hi, Carrie. This is Dr. Barnaby. We do have comments that we have compiled together, given the frequency with which we respond to hearings.
Okay, so so you're reading off of a pre-printed draft, correct?
Right. There is the introductory and the facts of the disease outbreak, yes, are provided in the set of comments, and we update this with the specifics of each premises who is appealing their quarantine.
Okay, perfect. Secondly, you mentioned another thing that other animals could be a host or spreaders. Can you please expand? What is another animal? Is that a dog, a horse, a cat? What other animal should I be worried about? A squirrel, a rat?
Yes, ma'am. So to clarify, they are not considered hosts and that they are not infected. They do not become sick themselves. But this is a method of transmission known as fomite transmission where, for instance, you or an animal or another person walking across the property where there is virus present in soil, so then goes on to another property, could track that on their shoes, on their feet, on equipment, on vehicles, you name it.
Okay. So basically, like, for instance, if you ride a horse, which the Johnsons don't have a horse in the moment, but I know that they are at horse property, and we do ride over there. So a horse that is walking by a positive site could possibly carry it on to the next location.
Only if that horse were to be coming directly from a positive premises where there is a viral load right beneath its feet.
Okay. Next up, the other question, when you mentioned the epidemiology studies and that you're certified to do these, are we able to get copies of the exact locations where these scientific studies are being produced? Because we can't seem to lock down one of those written studies on this and who is doing the study and what training they have to do it.
Yes, ma'am. So I think to reference some of those statements, the USDA, and I thus assume the state of California as well, will do their own analyses. Part of the USDA, these are often available online. They are public source once they are published. They go into the details of an outbreak.
Okay. When would they be able to be published? Because the Johnsons here are at risk to have their birds euthanized, and I think it would be courteous and just quite frankly to be transparent to give these folks these studies so that they know why did their birds have to die. And I think it's very fair to ask that, and along with the conclusive written results of the positive. Now, mind you, not the location, but those written results to show what strain, if it is Newcastle, confirm that, and what strain we're dealing with.
Hi, this is Dr. Barnaby again, so I will attempt to address, there are a couple different comments I would like to make. Data that is being collected as part of this current outbreak will likely not be published for some time yet, as this is an ongoing process that is continually being informed as this virus moves. These of course are used to inform, we study historical outbreaks to be prepared in the event of a reintroduction, to inform our response strategies for future outbreaks. We hope that is not the case. But any specific information from this one, in terms of a published document, we would not expect that to be available for some time, and especially not likely before this outbreak is concluded.
Okay. One problem, and this is just I guess between you and I that I may make mention. You want everybody's compliance, all the residents, the citizens. We want compliance. But what's I'm getting the feeling here is that we, the citizens, like Miss Johnson and myself, we aren't getting compliance. It's like we're being treated as we're derelict, that we aren't provided any information. We just have to roll with this because Cdfa says so. And that's not being transparent, and that's not being honest. So, I mean, that's an issue that we're kind of running into here with all this. and I don't know what you can do to offer me some help with this, but if CDFA wants compliance from citizens and residents, they're going to have to come clean here and become transparent and involve us and give us the information so we can work together.
Yeah, I'll respond to that. This is Dr. Fowler. Certainly we're spending a lot of efforts and have a lot of folks within the incident working on outreach. Certainly any specific outreach is available. We would be happy to mail any particular outreach to a particular individual. We are posting a lot of this outreach or making it available at feed stores. As one source, we have had a number of community outreaches where folks can come in the evening and ask questions where we can provide information, but certainly we want to be transparent with the information about Virulent Newcastle.
Okay, so at this point, that's very good discussion in terms of the need for transparency. I think the IMT appreciates hearing that. I think there's been some good information presented so far, but are there any other specific questions, responses related to whether or not this was an erroneous imposition of the quarantine?
I actually have another question with Dr. Barnaby. You mentioned about the dumping sites and the how they're disposing, and there isn't anybody, residents that are doing this. I've actually witnessed and went to the scene, and I have the proof and documents of how they're taking these bags of dead birds and they're just tossing them, and then shortly after they're being churned into the soil, and you can see that there's other type wild birds pecking at the bags. So if you want to get with me on this, we have a problem with the disposal issue. It's not being done right. And being you're a vet, the other issue, I personally have been witness to the inhumane euthanasia that is being done, and the operators that are doing it, including the trash cans that are being used. None of this is humane in any way. It's quite inhumane.
This is Dr. Fowler. With regards to the CO2 gas euthanasia that we use, that is an approved method of euthanasia in birds from the AVMA. There are a number of others, but we feel like that is the most humane to be used in a situation like this.
Yes, this is Alyssa Johnson, and I would like to comment now, if that's okay.
Please do.
Dr. Barnaby, I would like to address your exact wording, to be quite honest. With the analogy of the horse, and the horse having the ability to spread this potential disease, you said yourself that horse would have to physically walk through contaminated soil to spread that disease. Is that correct?
It would have to walk through a contaminated area to pick up virus and spread it. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so like I originally said in my opening statement, I have 3 access points that you would have to cross before ever even being locked. These are locked access points. Separated by gates, locked, 3 separate points you would have to cross in order to get to my quarantined area, where I also described to you that our designated quarantine booths are kept in that area. We have the disinfectants. It would be physically impossible for the spread of any disease out of the setup of my property. So my birds, they don't have to die. They pose 0 threat to any other animal or wildlife. There is no possible way for them to even leave the area or for other birds to enter. I am begging you to approve my appeal. I'm not understanding how these mass chicken farms and production, they're getting a free pass. Foster Farms, where are they at? I just want my pets. I am looking at my 10-year-old son in the face as he's not understanding why the people of this country who are supposed to look out for us and protect us are wanting to come and murder his pets. His pets.
I think at this point in time,
signs.
Mrs. Johnson, I think you've made a very clear point in terms of the good things that you are doing for biosecurity, and I think you've raised some questions for the IMT to think about. But let's
I
say,
would appreciate to hear Dr. Barnaby acknowledge her statement of the horse would have the animal would physically have to cross through contaminated soil. This is simply not possible in my setup.
So, ma'am, and with the horse-specific scenario, I understand that that is a frustrating scenario to imagine, and you do have, from what it sounds like, a very excellent, secure system. The issue is that when virus is circulating in that area, fomite transmission, right, may occur through much smaller animals, wild birds, rodents.
They can't access. It's a completely closed structure.
And wind may also be a form of transmission for this virus.
It's a completely closed structure. There is no wind. And as for your humane euthanasia, let me ask you, is it humane for these Craigslist employees to be standing on chickens' heads, laughing while they're crushing them to death? Is that humane euthanasia? Because it's documented. We've got plenty of videos of it. Please save our animals.
so at this point, I think everybody's...
I have been nothing but been a respectful citizen of this country. I've never done a thing in my life to be considered a criminal, and I have been stalked by your people. I have had people looking over my fence. I've had people watching me come and go as I leave my personal residence. I am not a criminal.
I think you've made your point very clearly, Mrs. Johnson. And I'm sure the IMT is understanding the situation. At this point, I'm going to close the hearing. I don't think there's any additional information.
Sir, can I add one more? Sir, may I add one more thing? This is Carrie. May I add one more, and then I'll close. What I wanted to add on these informal hearings, Cdfa agent worker Jody, and this is recorded, when a resident asked about doing the appeal hearing, what I also need to understand is Cdfa Jody stated, you will not win any appeal, meaning these appeals are prejudged. How do we get a fair appeal if Cdfa agent Jody and other workers are mentioning that the appeals will not be won? They are prejudged. They are predetermined. That is not due process of our law.
Well, I'll speak to that. They are not prejudged. That's why we are having this hearing. That's why I would like to hear, and I've heard a lot, I think, in terms of the circumstances here. We're trying to be fair and try to understand both sides.
Has anybody actually won one of these appeals? Because I am not aware of anybody that has won, myself included. And I had my birds tested healthy with UC Davis, your own lab. I had them tested. They still went ahead and killed everything. So being that these are I have no other basis to go off. Is there anybody that has won? I mean, can you relieve Miss Johnson right now? If she has won this, can you tell her right now so she doesn't have to have an upset stomach all night tonight and be sick? Can you tell her if she's won or lost right now? And just, I think she should. I think her bird should be on quarantine and leave her alone. I'm not the hearing officer. I can't make that ruling. But could we do that then? Or could you tell me who actually has successfully done one of these appeals and it actually was taken seriously and that person was afforded due process?
First off, the hearing is related to the imposition of the quarantine. Any actions that are taken beyond that, such as euthanasia, is not within the purview of the hearing officer to make a decision on. So I'm just making a decision related to the imposition of the quarantine.
Yes, but on the imposition of the quarantine, that is a kill. I don't think anybody has any problems with the quarantine at all. As a matter of fact, I think people will happily quarantine. Where we're having the issue is, and like Miss Johnson, you're wanting to go past a quarantine and you're wanting to kill her pets and they aren't sick. And we have no information, no conclusion.
We're already quarantined.
I know, Alicia, that's what I'm trying to point out. I don't think anybody has a problem with a quarantine. I think people are having a problem with the inhumane, unnecessary euthanasia of healthy pet birds.
Okay, well, your point is well taken. Again, the topic here is related to whether or not the quarantine should be held in place.
No, the kill. Correction, sir, not the quarantine. the kill. We are not, nobody has any issue with the quarantine. It's the imposition of the quarantine which leads to the kill. So let's rephrase this. Nobody is fighting anything about a quarantine. We all agree to that. We don't agree to the inhumane, unnecessary killing of healthy pets. The kill, not a quarantine.
Sorry, but this really is just about the quarantine. The actions that the incident management team takes beyond that is not something that's part of this hearing. So with that, I'd like to close this hearing. I thank you all for your participation. I will issue a written decision within 24 hours from this date and time. How would you prefer to receive the response, Mrs. Johnson? We have an email for you. Is that adequate?
That's fine.
Okay, thank you. So if you do not agree with the decision, you may file a petition in the Superior Court, as previously mentioned. Note that the appellant is responsible for seeking whatever legal assistance is necessary in order to do so. This concludes the formal hearing. The hearing in the matter of Cdfa versus Alyssa Johnson is closed. The date is June 3rd, and the time is 11:05 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you.